to another episode of the Chicks on the Right podcast, where we talk to our friend and sponsor of the show, Zach Abraham from Bulwark Capital Management. And today we have a question about finances and kiddos, because there are lots of people out there who have questions about when and if they should start saving or investing for their kids. Now, granted, that's not something everybody can do. And I would think that the right thing to do is the mask in the airplane, right? Like, you make sure your own needs are taken care of, your own retirement's taken care of before you even think about helping out the kiddos. But is that right? Or should everybody be maybe investing a little bit in their kids, whether it's education or whether it's retirement for their kids?
Well, so it's funny. We were talking offline. I was actually engaged in a conversation about this today. I was responding to a tweet where another financial guy, CPA, money manager type, put out a guideline, a thread on how to build your child's trust fund, right? So how to accumulate enough money to where your kid doesn't need to work or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and well, my first response was like, guys, the only person out there that would want to create a trust fund for their child is somebody that has never been around people that were trust fund babies.
Right.
Exactly. They're not happy. Suicide rates are higher.
They're usually insufferable. Yeah.
Yeah. Addiction rates are higher.
Yeah.
Divorce rates are like double or triple. It's not good, right? Like everybody should know that. So now, but what I am going to do, there's a hack out there that I'm going to give to everybody, free of charge. It's one of my favorite. But as far, and I'll get to it just after this, but should you be saving for college if you can? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is, I think that you should be having conversations about what you expect, as far as college goes. Like, what are we saving for? I think that there is incredible ways to do college, unlike so many people are doing it today, where you can get an excellent degree and not go massively into debt. Community college is one of those things.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to community college. Okay, well, you don't want to be $250,000 in debt. I can tell you that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, should you start saving for those kinds of things? Yeah, if you can. But you said it perfectly, which is, should you, right? Well, should you, if you are taken care of first, right? Like, you're not working so your kids don't have to work someday, right? We're working so your kids don't have to pay for you someday, right? So that's the break you're going to give the kids. But as far as saving for the kids goes, this is something that people can take advantage of. You need to talk to your own tax person. Okay, but it's much easier to take advantage of this if you own a business, but it's not the only way to take advantage of this. So my favorite thing for my kids' planning. So I'm a guy that manages money for a living. The only accounts I have open for my kids are individual brokerage accounts where they're involved with me. We'll pick out some stocks, things like that. And then they're Roth IRAs. Okay. And why do I say Roth? Because for me, the Roth is the best education funding tool for me and my family in my situation. What is the drawback to a Roth? If you go into some of these 529 college savings accounts that are designed for that, you can have higher contributions per year. The Roth is going to limit you to, I believe, $7,000 a year. Okay, so you can get up to, I think, $25,000 in some of these other college savings accounts, but there's some serious drawbacks. So, most of these college savings accounts will require you to spend the money down at some point in the not too distant future. The money can be applied only to education purposes, and I think you can use it to first time home purchases as well. But if you don't use it, you're going to have to take it and pay taxes on it. It's one of those deals, right?
Right.
The other thing I don't like about those accounts is they have predetermined allocations, meaning they tell you what you can invest in. Okay, so for somebody that manages money, obviously that makes them unattractive to me. I would much rather, and I am very confident that we will generate significantly better results than the prepackaged portfolio they put inside them. And one of the reasons I say that is because all of those prepackaged portfolios come with a secure part, like bonds in them. Okay. So if you flip over to a Roth account, you can put in less, But a Roth account gives you all of this. You can use Roth money without penalty or without taxes for college. You can use Roth money for first-time home purchases. But here's the difference. You don't have to run it down. And you guys can play with the numbers yourself. Look at, now, maybe you can't do this much, but just go look at $7,000 a year over the course of your child's life, okay? Up, and let's say they continue putting that money into the Roth. And if you run that, putting in $7,000 a year and assume a 10% interest gain, right? Just less than the stock market is paid, the amount of money that you will generate, that kid that is tax-free, is going to be incredible. And that money can be used for education, can be used for a first-time home purchase, but doesn't have to be. Now, here's the catch. Here's where it gets really interesting. The bummer about a Roth is you don't get a tax write-off, okay? But there is a
right, because you putting it in after taxes.
Yeah, yes, it has to be off earned income. But here's a little catch. Now, again, run this by your tax person. What I can promise you is I've gone over it with my tax people. This is 100% legal. I don't mess with the IRS, okay? But still, even though it's bad business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like messing with the SEC. You just don't want any of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is completely legal, and you got to deal with your own tax person. But there is a way to get the deduction and the Roth, okay? Which is really sweet because, and this is the only legal way I know how to do this, where you can get a tax deduction, putting the money, the Roth money, into your kids' accounts, and the money will forever be tax-free. And remember, with a Roth, here's the other reason why I like a Roth. If you need to pull the money out, you can always pull out your principal penalty-free. So this is why it's great for small business owners, right? If I'm doing good, I can contribute to the kids' Roth and all that kind of stuff. But if I run into a tough year, I don't want to raid the kids' accounts, but if I have to, I put it in there, right? Like if I can keep the business opening, right?
Your money,
and I can pull the principal out without any penalties. But here's how you can do it. So especially if you own your own business, you can hire your children to work part-time at your business. Okay. And that is whatever. Maybe that's them sweeping maybe that's them sweeping out the garage of the business. Maybe that's them working in my office space. Whatever that is, as long as they do not make more than $10,000 in the year, they don't have to pay income tax. Okay. 10,000 or below, you don't owe any income tax. Okay. But I'm hiring them to work at my business, so I get to deduct the money I'm paying them off my taxes.
Okay. Right.
And they get the earned income. And so then out of that $9,500 or whatever they made that year, because it's earned income, they can make a $7,000 Roth contribution. So now you're building Roths in the accounts that can be used, that you can pull the money out penalty free if you need to. The kids can use for education, just like a college savings plan. The kids can use for a first-time home purchase, but if they don't need either one of those, then there's no time limit. They can let that Roth roll on until they're retired. And then they're sitting on a big pile of non-taxed money.
God,
so
why didn't I know about this 10 years ago?
Look, I don't know why more people don't talk about this, but this is a beautiful funding mechanism. The other thing I like about it right now is so many of us kind of feel up in the air about college, right? The whole era around, or the aura around college has shifted. And way more parents are looking at community college. Way more parents are sitting there going, I'm hearing more and more kids talking about going to trade schools, which I think is wonderful. So this is a way where we can contribute and save for college without being locked into college and not have to have some onerous tax situation if the kid chooses not to go, right? But that to me is something everybody should do if they can. Do something like that. Pay the kids for what they do, right? I know of a client that did it with just his kids working around the house, right? He just like he can write off. I believe you can. You can write off handyman work around the house, I believe, right? So it's hiring an employee. So you can do it that way.
It's beautiful. It's brilliant. I love this. I'm just mad that I didn't know about it earlier and this is the kind of stuff that you don't hear about, because you hear about some of these like Texas has the Texas tuition fund and we pay into that. But you're absolutely right, because what if my daughter decides she wants to go out of state? Well, we're going to get dinged. you know,
Yep.
we're going to get deep with that. So you think you're doing the right thing, but like, dang it, I wish I would have known about it.
Well, and that's, you know, that's because like nobody knows what they don't know. And so you can have a tax person, you can have an accountant, but like if you don't know the questions to ask, then you don't know this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then also, right, like if you walk in somewhere and they're like, oh yeah, here's a 529. This is the college savings plan. So naturally that's what you should do. Right. Well, if you look at it, most people that are funding one of those aren't funding it by 7,000 a year.
Right.
They're not reaching. The only reason to do it is if you're really confident your kid's going to go to school and you need to be putting away the maximum amount and getting that deduction. Otherwise, do the Roth.
What I loved about what you said before about including your kids and making some of the decisions about the Roth is basically giving them a financial education that they wouldn't have had otherwise, which I think is so invaluable because so many kids have no idea about any of that kind of stuff. They don't learn it in school. And so that's something that you're also teaching them, that they're going to be able to take that and carry it with. So if they don't go to college, or if they do, or whatever, they're still going to have that financial education that you've given them.
Yeah. And there's so many parts to financial literacy too. Like one of the things you gotta, like, I would challenge everybody out there, and this is kind of a personal belief of mine. If it doesn't correspond with yours, that's fine. But I feel pretty adamant about it in this day and age. You know, the old adage, we don't discuss religion and politics,
right?
Or we don't discuss money and politics, whatever. I think those three things should be discussed at every dinner table every night, right? Money, religion, and politics, because that's what matters. Okay. And money is a very important part of that. And when your kids, for a variety of reasons, right? A, understand value. B, understand what work it's going to take to duplicate the life that they grew up in, right? C, help them understand also that money does not fix all of your problems. And contrary to the culture you're living in right now, money is not the single most important thing. Right. And if you live your life like that, you're going to be horrifically disappointed. But, you know, there's just so many different parts to it. The other thing is I've got a young cousin that just started working for me, and he's starting out starting out on the bottom rung. And he's been more of a philosophy major, international religions, things like that, much more of an artistic guy. But like he and I were discussing, I was like, look, if you're trying to understand the world around you and you don't understand the money financial component, you do not understand the world around you, right? Because it is the baseline foundational, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. If you don't have a financial education, you don't have an education.
Right.
Right. You don't know what you don't know.
And people can get a little bit of that education from your webinars that you host on the regular.
I know, right?
Yeah, you're getting better.
I know, she's the best. She's the master at this.
I always look for my opening, man, and grab it.
It's impressive. Okay, so if you thought we've sounded interesting, if you like our little Roth hack and want to know the other kind of stuff that we can do, and we do offer a lot of services that are different. We've working with several high net worth people that have really big concentrated positions in a single stock. We're helping them make that tax efficient and also guard them against that stock dropping. So there's a lot of other sophisticated things that we can do that other shops don't, but you can learn about all of that. Go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, sign up there free of charge. And
fantastic. All right.
Thank you, ladies.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.